What's up, everybody? I'm Lockouts, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the best macros, or the most useful ones, for your demon hunter in PvE or PvP, whether or not you're tanking or you're playing Havoc. Check this out, baby. Jumping right over here into the macros, I'm going to make this short and sweet so that you get a general idea of how to build macros, the reason why you're going to build macros, how they're going to help you out in PvE or PvP. They make casting spells a lot more simple, and they help you to where you don't have to actually target a target to cast a spell at it if you're playing an arena or something like that. The first thing I'll talk about is an at cursor macro, especially if you're a tank, if you're playing Vengeance. You want to use your Infernal Strike all the time. So instead of having a lineup where your Infernal Strike is, if you just put your cursor anywhere that's, you can see it moving around here, my cursor. So if I just cast my Infernal Strike wherever my cursor is, that's where I jump to, okay? And however far your range is, if you put her way up on the top of your screen here, you'll jump to your max range, or you'll jump right onto your targets, or whatever it is, have you, okay? And the way that you're going to build that one is, it's hashtag show tooltip /cast, and then open bracket, and then the @ cursor close bracket sigil of flame. Okay, what we'll talk about is if you're not running the sigil of change talent in level 106, and you're not running you're running concentrated flame or quicken sigils, you could use this same @ cursor macro. Okay, and this will just be wherever your sigils are. So if you have your Sigil of Misery, your Sigil of Silence, and then your Sigil of Flame, anytime you cast them, it'll just cast wherever your cursor is then, and you only have to push the button one time, and it'll cast your spells then wherever your cursor is. It makes it a lot simpler to use. It's only one button that you have to push instead of push the button, make the green thing light up, and then push it again to cast where you want it to. Wherever your cursor is, it makes casting that spell a lot more easy. Now, there might be times when you don't want to use this. That's up to you. Bind these macros appropriately. So the next thing that we'll talk about is if you're playing it, say, in PvP and you're playing in Arena, okay? You want to be able to kick your focus. So let's put this little Stable Master right here. Let's set her as our focus. So we can see that our little Stable Master is right here now, our focus target, okay? And if I'm casting, say, at this horse right here, if I was a caster or whatever it is, if I wanted to kick this Stable Master, let's pretend the Stable Master is now our caster, okay? And what this does is, if I just push my F key regularly, okay, it will cast at my focus. Now, if I hold Shift and then I push my F button, what this does is it'll cast naturally at my target. So my target is this horse right here. So if I want to hit the horse with my interrupt, what I do is I'll just push the Shift button and then F. Or I'll just hit the T button, depending on how I am playing and, what's going on. If I want to cast at her while I still have her targeted, then I just hit the F key and it'll cast directly at my focus without having to actually break even targeting my current target, okay? And this is called a shift modifier, or a modifier macro. And what this one does is it'll modify any button. So if you wanted to use Alt instead of Shift, you just replace Alt here, or if you wanted to replace it with Control, you replace it with Control, etc., etc., etc. If you didn't want to cast it at your focus, you could cast it at a player. So if you're running twos and you knew your player's name, you would just set this up, to where it would be at your player. You can also set this up to be at party 1, at party 2, at party 3, or instead of at focus, this could be, say if you wanted to Infernal Strike to your healer because you were playing, for whatever reason, this in twos, okay? And if you would cast, at Infernal Strike at whatever player it would be, you would jump from your Infernal Strike, if you were within range, would jump onto that player over there, okay? The next thing that we could talk about is binding your talents that are on your character, okay? Say your trinkets. This is your 13th and your 14th slot. So if you count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, whatever. Yeah, 10, 12, 14. So this basically will cast Immolation Aura for me when I'm in Vengeance. Every time that I cast Immolation Aura, whether or not I'm in Vengeance, or if I would put this on my bar right now, what it does is it'll pop my trinkets for me. Okay, so if I had trinkets here that would build strength for me or whatever it is, I push that button and it'll pop my trinkets. Now, even if the spell is on cooldown and I have one trinket, say both trinkets are able to be popped, just using this, even though the spell is on cooldown, you could have your trinkets somewhere right here like this, like how I have them on my bar here, and you can monitor the cooldown of those trinkets. And even though the spell is on cooldown, you can still push that button and the macro will activate those trinkets for you, so that you only have to push one button to activate, you know, multiple trinkets. Now, there's multiple ways that you could do different like stuff. Like or there's different ways that you could bind macros actually to use stuff like this. So you could cast like at cursor, you know, your Infernal Strike. Instead of having meta here, you could have Infernal Strike, INFERNAL, Infernal Strike right there. And what this will do is every time I cast my Infernal Strike now, okay, this will also pop my trinkets, and I will drink a potion of prolonged power. Now, you have to test this on a per spell basis and a per potion basis, because sometimes you have to put a potion before the spell, sometimes it has to be after a spell, sometimes trinkets have to be in a certain way. So just test it back and forth with whatever spells and macros and potions and stuff like that that you're trying to bind stuff to. So just going over this one more time real quick. Using at cursor macros will help your sigils be dropped on the ground wherever your cursor is. It will help you also jump with your Infernal Strike, so that you only have to push buttons one time to cast your sigils or to use your Infernal Strike. Focus modifier, shift modifier, or modifier macros, if you will. These ones right here will be used for PvP if you're running, or when you're running your Havoc spec, so that you're able to kick focus targets without actually having to change targets from your actual kill target. So if you want to kick this target right here, you will, even though you're targeting the horse. This will kick your at focus target while targeting your horse. Now, you could have this to be, remember, you could change this up however you want. Instead of having no mod at focus, you could have it target right there and just change focus and put it down here to target, so that when you do push your shift modifier, it'll then cast at your target, and instead it'll just cast at your regular target like it would without you having to push, you know, shift to modify it to cast to your target. I like playing with it like this because if I want to, I know that when I want to kick, instead of me having to push the button, I just push it once and it'll automatically kick that healer, okay? And if you have focus interrupt sounds on and you have this healer bound up here to your focus, set up here into your line of sight, you'll have their cast bars right here. Not only will you visually see it, focus interrupt sounds will notify you audibly when a sound is going off. So if it's something that you want to, if it's a cast that you want to let go, you can let it go. You check the spell that they're casting. If it's a hard CC like a Cyclone or something like that, or a Polymorph, and you're able to kick that. If it's a mage or whatever it is that you have bound up there that's a cast, or that you're for a spell that you can kick, you have it up there for a focus modifier macro. Okay. Another thing that you could use this for is also your Imprison. That's great for, you know, focus target, you're in prison. So instead of putting your disrupt here, you would just put focus in prison there, and that right there would be you're in prison. So what I do when I'm running my imprison spell is, you know, you see right here, I run a no modifier macro, and I'll put it up here twice. So instead of using my Infernal Strike where R is and Shift R is, my Shift scroll wheel up and then Shift R. So Shift R will be my target. And then when I shift scroll wheel up, instead of me charging in like this, when I'm in Havoc form, it'll just automatically cast Imprison into my target, my focus target is. So if I'm running 2 DPS and I'm running Detainment as a PvP talent trait, they can't break your Imprison. They have to actually blow a CD. You know, they have to use their trinket to get out of it, or they have to sit. They're forced to sit it. And by, you know, using these focus modifier macros, you're able to stay on your target and then cast at other targets while you're still, you know, engaged in combat. This will help you be a better tank. This will help you cast spells faster. It'll help you react better with spells and stuff like that, okay? Just test this out on a per spell basis. These are some of the things that make me a better Havoc and a better Vengeance Demon Hunter. Test them out for yourself. If you learned anything from this, or if this helped you out, you know, do all the things to support a fella, please, by all means. Subscribe down there, turn on the bell so that you know every time I post a video. I do this multiple times a week, and we're going to drop macros for every single class, starting with this one right here, Demon Hunter. If you learned anything, or if this did help you out one more time, like, follow, subscribe. I'm Lockhouse, baby. Peace.